driven by our experience in Mississippi, or informed by it really, in that all of the folks working for K-3 reading achievement had some responsibility, but they had very uneven accountability and they had very uneven knowledge about even what was involved. And so by design, the Path Forward teams included the senior officer from the State Department of Education, and it was often the superintendent themselves, someone from the state school board, Board of Education, the chairs of the education committees in the state legislature, philanthropy, if philanthropy tended to be at the table, the governor's office, if the governor's office was invested in literacy in particular or had a reading, one of the literacy comprehensive grants, and advocates, if there were some, because there were a number of nonprofits like Barksdale who were working in states. And those comprise the teams. And going forward in about year 2, we added state superintendents and others who we felt like were key players in this food chain of teacher preparation. So that's where the Path Forward came from. We managed to intrigue and invite 18 states altogether over the course of 3 cohorts. And some of them had great success. Some of them ran into some major roadblocks, but a number of things came out of those. And I don't know if the Hunt Institute has collated a report about all of the activities that they've done, but some pretty important things came out of it. We also, when we started, were really dealing with legislation, but by the time we got to the 3rd cohort, most states that were involved already had legislation, and we're now trying to figure out how to map a plan and to implement change. So over time, the focus of the work shifted a little bit. I'm going to call on Mamie to tell a little bit about New York. It's really one of the shining stars of the Path Forward's story, in part because they had a really strong coach, and they were flexible in who they recruited to be on their team. And it's a powerhouse team that's really making some strides. So Mamie, I'm going to turn it to you. And then when you've done this, I'm going to let you go.
All right, fair enough. And Kelly, you should correct and interject as you see fit, because I've only been on one Path Forward team and you've seen several. But I think the folks who were convening the team did 3 things really, really wisely. Number one, they didn't just pull a team of kind of the usual suspects and the strong supporters of a move toward more research-based approach to reading instruction. They pulled folks from across the sector. So you had leaders from the state university system, leaders from the city university system here in New York City, leaders from the independent sector like me. And some of us were already predisposed to be strongly in support of a move toward a more research-based approach to reading instruction and a more research-based approach to teacher preparation for reading instruction. But some were not. Some were more skeptical. But they really, I think, did a very wise thing politically in bringing a representative group of leaders across the state together. That was number one. Number two, I don't actually know. Kelly, you may know. The leaders themselves were a wise choice. As a group of leaders of a local school here in New York City that was designed for kids with reading disabilities, reading differences. And so instead of having, sort of political leaders, if you will, at the helm of this movement, they had folks who were running a school, folks who started that school because they were the parents of kids with dyslexia or kids with other atypical reading development patterns. And so
And we
their
have a
leadership.
representative of that school on screen now. Hey, Emily, welcome.
Oh,
Thank
there she is. Okay, good. Hey, Emily, I'm singing your praises. So the team
So
that
nice, Mamie. Thank you.
the team that led was a really great team, and they chose a representative group to push forward this work across the state. And then, last but not least, and Emily, now that you're here, you can tell me if my perception is right. I think you guys did just a ton of work behind the scenes to marshal political and financial support for what it is that we're trying to do. So, to recap, some great leaders at the helm who weren't kind of your standard political leaders in this movement. They did a great job of choosing a really representative group of folks who were not all the like go research based approach to reading instruction crowd, and really strong behind the scenes work to marshal political like capital P, like governor, state board, political support and financial support from the philanthropic sector in particular. I thought all three of those components were essential. I'll pause there, and Kelly and Emily, you can correct or amend as you like.
Well, that was great, Mamie, and thanks for leading with the member of the team that I forgot to mention, which was teacher prep. So that's a key member of the team by design. Emily, do you want to talk about what the New York team is now doing as part of their implementation following their Path Forward year?
Sure. I would only add a little bit to Mamie. I would say we definitely didn't only have people who were gung ho science of reading and evidence based, but we didn't have any like real people who dragged us backwards. Like I think we struck the balance of people who were curious, ready to sort of learn, maybe more cautious, but no haters. And then definitely, I would just say that personal story moves the day. Anytime we could bring student voice or parent voice into the room, we did, because that is really where it's at for kids and families. And so I think that anytime this can come back to like really the classroom and how it leads back, we tried to do that so that people could attach, not just data or, you know, sometimes it can just lead. Personal stories really are important. And that goes for Mamie. I think Mamie was very brave and open about her personal journey, and how when the NCTQ report first came out, how she, was like, well, not our university, no way. They must have gotten something wrong. And being able to share that in a personal way of humility allowed a lot of other people to be humble. And that is so, so important. Leading by humility, leading by saying, I didn't know and I made some mistakes. It allows other people to also open up in that way. So I feel like it's really important to say where we are. We've got our state agency moving, maybe not as fast and as boldly as we would want, but we took good, solid steps forward and put those in the bank, and so that we could move ahead. I think that's always good in any change movement. Bank what you can get, and then know that you can always come back for more. I think that the other thing that we did was say, we know the state is only going to move so far. And so we, LAC, which is this nonprofit that we run, we are spearheading 9 to 12 pilot programs with 9 to 12 educator prep programs that we helped raise money for. They are going to do a 1 to 2 year process where they do some change work. They have agreed to sort of, be bold and be the first, phase one, we're calling it, and sort of say, I'm open to looking at my program and doing some of the deep work that I know needs to happen. And that is also a wide range. There are people who are gung ho, ready to rip it all out. Let's see what's in there. And then there are some people who have been led by a funder. The president of the university maybe is saying, hey, we've got a funding and the funder wants to do this. Let's do this. So, we think there'll be a wide array of outcomes, and we're excited to document those and bring those forward as hopefully people who want to sign on for phase two. I would say the one thing that we want to really sort of crack is what's tough about this is there's EPP, and then there's really also how this translates into district. And we have a lot of New York is very much a choice state. We have choice in curriculum that people can use. There aren't any mandates. So we had a tough time balancing between sort of carrot and stick. I think we've struck the right balance. We'll see. I think one thing that we're landing on is we want to create, with these 9 to 12 pilots, a culture throughout the state of seeing who's here, who's doing good work, a culture of evidence-based practice that can start to bring others in.
Thank you, Emily. I'm conscious of your time, folks, but I do want you to hear and benefit from Stephanie's work and Valerie's work. So let me pause and ask you about the time. Stephanie has a network of folks she's working with, and also is, I think, poised to be a technical assistance provider in some form or fashion. Valerie's work at DFI is already working in Texas. I want to make sure you all are aware of where and what she's doing, both there and elsewhere. But tell me about time.
Yeah, no.
So I think we can afford a little bit of time. So go ahead and do it, and we'll try to make it up on the next section.
Okay. Stephanie, let's go to you. If you will just explain the work that you've been doing to build this network of faculty, and what you've seen in terms of change at higher ed, and if you're working specifically in Texas at all.
Yeah, I have not worked with any higher ed institutions in Texas, but I've worked with many others, directly providing program review for close to 30 programs around the country over the last 5 years, and worked with a group of folks to create a network so that people who were inclined to move towards more evidence-based preparation of teachers would have a tribe that they could connect with. So that group is called Stars in Higher Ed. We have published together. We've presented at conferences together. We have a private Facebook group with about 1,500 teacher educators who participate. We have free webinars just about every month, and we've hosted several in-person conferences for learning together, networking, sharing resources, and that sort of thing. In my experience, and my experience has really just been with the willing people who are stepping forward and wanting to move in this direction. It takes a lot of technical assistance. It takes a lot of knowledge building and a lot of coaching. It's not a one-year process, even for the people who are willing to make this change. And I would also just share that from my perspective, there has to be some alignment within your state. Your teacher licensure standards need to be aligned to the research. Your licensure exam has to be aligned to the research and those standards. You have to have a way of faculty learning in a respectful way that is immediately applicable to their coursework. You have to have those connections with the K-12 public school environment, and you have to have program approval that is where the rubber meets the road. In many states that I've worked with, they can have all of those other things going on, lots of carrots and supports, but what it all boils down to is if they can still get the stamp of approval from whoever in your state grants authority for those programs to graduate teachers. If that continues to be a rubber stamp, all the rest of it is just window dressing. So that's a little bit about my experience. I've tried to create a space for people to network and learn and grow together. I'm continuing to support that. That's just a little bit about my experience.
Yeah. I'm glad you added that, because I was going to say, I think one of the things that's made you so successful is you're creating that safe space for faculty. That was our experience as well in Mississippi. It seems to be a very vulnerable place for them to be. So
yeah, you catch more flies with honey, and if you just piss people off by pointing fingers at them, they're not going to play a game with you. They're not going to engage with you. So yeah, that's definitely the lesson.
Okay, Valerie, let's go to you.
Thanks, Kelly.
And by the way, full disclosure, I'm on the Deans for Impact board.
And we're so happy that she is. I would echo so much of what Stephanie said. A lot of the things that she said are things that we experience in our work supporting programs. Also, this need for a safe space for faculty learning, that it requires a lot of coaching and knowledge building and support. One thing that we've had success with in bringing faculty along in that work is having really tightly designed and facilitated experiences for them to walk in K-12 classrooms and observe what is happening and be in conversation with graduates of their programs and school leaders that they're partnering with. I think that more than anything has shifted faculty who may have been hesitant or cautious to really understand the need for the work. I think having administrative support within the institution is really important. So having a department chair or dean who is really bought in and thinking about how to create the resources to do the work, that is faculty time, stipends, things like that. It is really hard to move the work without some of those pieces in place. And then, to Stephanie's point about alignment within the state, we have seen that to be really true, that when policy incentives shift, faculty behavior shifts as well. And I know in Texas, there's been a lot of shifts recently related to educator preparation standards and things like that. I think we've found, as we've been working in Texas, the more you can link the work that you're trying to support to some of those external shifts that are happening, the more successful we've been, because faculty really are paying attention to some of those accountability requirements and things like that.
Thank you. All right, back to you if y'all want to ask questions, or are you ready for your breakouts? I did not commit these folks to do anything but show up tonight, but they're all yours after this if you can persuade them.
Yes, please stay. And thank you. This is truly insightful and helpful. Dahlem, I guess, do you want to go ahead and break out to the...
I'll go over a quick summary of what we saw earlier, and let me go ahead and post that to the main deal. And I'll be real quick about this, and then we can break into the group. So I do want to mention, and Mary's here, so we've had 3 basically information sessions. Mary, who's on, provided an overview of the IDA accreditation, the why and what, and she gave some details on, obviously we wanted to provide awareness of what's doing this. But most importantly, she provided details of the process of the IDA accreditation, which is a key part here. Next, we had Dr. Amy Thompson in October. She provided a testimony about the success of obtaining IDA accreditation at the University of Central Arkansas. She provided the timeline and the process and the activities that took place to achieve the IDA accreditation plus. And she also went through the overview, which I thought was very insightful, of the benefits of accreditation, the increased enrollment, the IDA marketing support, and increased faculty knowledge, and basically a competitive advantage going forward. And then we had our last session in January was with Representative Toth, and he provided an example of the House Bill 1605, what it takes to push legislation, and it was very insightful. He mentioned that we must educate the state representatives on the details of the cause, making the rounds, identifying people who support it and don't. When it comes to universities, we need to have something that has teeth, the accountability aspect of it. But what I thought was the most insightful was the secret sauce, and he said it's us. And Kelly, your team kind of went through this as well. He mentioned that over 5,000 legislation activities go on, and they have to address it in 5 months. So it's a bandwidth thing. But us, our team, individuals knocking on the doors have a much greater impact than paid lobbyists. And so getting in with the stories and whatnot was very important. So just wanted to retouch on that as we go into our break rooms. I think everyone's aware of our collective impact objective. We're looking at, establishing accreditation programs across universities and to help place focus on pre-service teachers. And with that, we can get in, I guess we can go into the break session. I'll kick it back to you, Lisa.
Okay.
Do you want us to stay?
You are more than welcome. Yes, we would like you to stay. One of the great breakout rooms is accreditation. So that's what's going to stay here. And then the legislation is going into the breakout room. So do we have legislation here? Participants that would like to go to legislation room or stay to talk about the accreditation? So Dahlem.
So I'm going into legislation.
Okay, you're going into room 1.
I was going to do legislation.
All right. So can you choose your room 1?
I can, yes.
Awesome. Anyone else going to legislation room 1? I think everyone has the option to choose. Okay. And
Thanks, Val.
okay, thank you, Valerie. All right, so we're here, and Hope,
Ma'am.
leading this group. Your accreditation.
So I think where we are currently is, we have decided, or per our last few conversations, we've thought about running a pilot accreditation program, and I have spoken to my department chair already about this, who is incredibly thrilled with the potential for us to have an IDA accredited program at the University of Houston. So I've been working with 2 other faculty members that we are actually, the program that we're looking at would cross over both special populations and literacy. So it'd be kind of a hybrid program for students. And we're looking at starting at the master's level. So with either in-service teachers or teachers that are returning to school to get their certification, either in general education or special education. So that's where we are. And we also, as a group, have been talking about or beginning to plan a collective impact symposium this summer that the University of Houston will host in the end of June, to hopefully bring other universities in Texas to the conversation. Because although, University of Houston's happy to lead this charge, we know we can't do it alone. So that's where we are. I will say personally, I've already started mapping K. Perry standards to our current course offerings that we have for what we're calling this bridge program, which, like I said, bridges special pops and literacy. And I am open to any conversations, suggestions. I'm, like I said, my department is ready to hit the ground running. Like Mary, I'm like, when can I meet with you to talk about next steps? Because we want to do this yesterday. So.
I think the question is, are you looking at other departments or is it just within one department? So that's one of the things. Are the candidates going to be taking classes within both general ed and special ed? So then it's coordinating the faculty between there and saying that this is a specialized certificate or master's degree that is taking candidates from both programs. I take it, right?
Yes, it's our curriculum and instruction department and our education leadership and policy studies, because gen ed falls under curriculum and instruction, and special education falls under, we call it ELPS, education leadership and policy studies.
Right.
And
And then
go ahead.
the next thing would be, do you want it to be just content knowledge, so accreditation where it's just courses, or do you want to include a practicum and showing that they are working with students and you're using it as part of a research and you're seeing outcome measures?
I would love to see option B. I think currently our programming has I think we're pretty strong in terms of being able to kind of adjust what we have so that we can meet the option A. I don't know what it would take for us to develop a practical, like how that would even look for us. We've done it with other programs like our diagnostician program, as well as our BCBA program. So I know it's possible, but I know this is a different kind of practicum. So I think that there's open to conversation. And I think that one of the things we have traditionally done at the university is, we do definitely provide student choice. So you can do the route where you just finish and you take the coursework and you don't do the practicum, and you can still take the K-Perry exam and be the structured literacy classroom teacher, right?
Yeah.
Or, you can go further. So we like to offer both options.
So I think Stephanie would be able to, with her experience at Mount St. Joseph's and how they develop their coursework. But those schools, the programs, institutions that are coming through, some of them start with just accreditation. They want to make sure that the courses are aligned. Some of them, where we see a practicum or a field experience, especially if you want to tie it to your assessment course. I don't know, Stephanie, if you agree, but really thinking about, you've taught the content, now you're trying to get them to understand for the application piece, and then you need assessment to measure, especially progress monitoring, to see if the candidate is teaching a student what
right.
they are learning.
So I currently teach data-based individualization of instruction at the graduate level. And one of the things they have to do is implement an evidence-based reading intervention, take baseline data, progress monitoring data for 6 to 8 weeks, and then reflect on that and determine whether or not they need to make an instructional decision. So I know it's kind of baked into our course, and so, but like thinking about how do we flesh that out even more so that it becomes something that eventually gets them the structured literacy dyslexia interventionist.
Right. So I know, again, Stephanie, you can jump in, but there are several programs that have started, as I said, with accreditation and did a field experience, and that's only 8 to 12 weeks. To have students to go over to SERI to get SERI certification, it needs to be longer. You need to have 24 weeks. So what some programs do is they just start with that field experience and start developing. Can you have like a partnership with certain schools? So you already know placement teachers that your candidates can go to. The question is, and this is where it can start developing this year-long process of who are going to be your go-to teachers that you're going to send your candidates so that they can be working with students, or do you have your own clinic within the university? We have some programs that got grant money and have started their own dyslexia clinic. Stephanie, do you guys have that? Your own placement?
We don't. We train a group of supervisors who work in Cincinnati public schools. We engage with them in an extensive training. We pay them a small stipend, and they supervise that year-long practicum for us. And it's a big lift, but it's also a really wonderful way to stay connected to what's actually happening in public schools and to provide service to our urban school district. So it's a great partnership. It's
Right.
worth the investment.
And I think that's where you would start growing your own and thinking about those practicum supervisors who you can and then you start developing a relationship with the schools and hopefully the school district. And so then this kind of builds that pipeline. When you get candidates that are done, what are these districts? And then as Kelly was talking about, the second part of this is really trying to make sure districts are ready for these candidates that you are now preparing, right? So if you have state legislation that is giving some guidelines to the district, to the State Department, and the State Department provides guidance to the districts, and then the districts realize what you are able to participate in. And that's what Amy Thompson was able to do over in and talk about her work working within public education and the districts around her and placements of their candidates, not only for their practicum, but once they graduate, where they get jobs.
Can I just put a little plug in? This is Emily from New York, and we run a summer school program. I know summer is like sort of such a wonky, weird time, but there is something about the low stakes setting where teachers feel like they can, especially for like in-service teachers, where they can feel like they can actually like not fail, but have this space to not be judged. Whereas when they're in their classrooms, they feel like they have to really, toe the line. And so we do a 5 week, or it's actually 6 weeks, 1 week of a course, and then a 5 week practicum. We do it with mentor teachers, where it's like one mentor teacher and two trainees, and they rotate daily. They have to start sort of right away. And so they're really in practicum almost immediately. So, and everybody has to sort of dive in, and it really breaks down a lot of the fear of failure or fear of like trying something new. But it's also like not judged. And we do 2 hours in the morning of reading instruction, and then directly followed, the kids go back to a summer school setting where they're doing like games or math or whatever it else is. And then those teachers stay on for 2 hours of coaching, feedback, and planning. And they do that for 5 weeks. They come out pretty strong, knowing how to like plan, do some diagnostic, feedback and planning for the next day, in a structured literacy lesson. So I would just say, after school, summer school, those are settings where teachers feel a little bit more comfortable just taking a risk.
Emily, what's your school in New York?
It's called South Bronx Literacy Academy. We're an in-district public school, but we are specifically designed for kids with dyslexia. So everyone in our school is a struggling reader. They're like 16th percentile or below on their Acadians benchmark.
I have a university. I'm in Arizona, so
Oh, nice.
I've been working with a Northern Arizona university, and what they are doing is a summer school clinic, running kids, and that's where one of their courses is in the summer, and they are able to provide, long term or a longer day where part of the time they're doing content knowledge and practice with it, and then part of the time working with the student and applying the skills that they're learning. And then in the fall and then the spring, they have more classes. So it's a summer institute in between the 2 years that they're doing their coursework. So it ends up being not a practicum necessary because it doesn't fulfill for series certification, but it provides them a lot of practice so that we can show, if you can eventually develop a practicum for these teachers, so at the end they actually have a longer time working, then they can go towards series certification, then that's just an added bonus that can be added after you go through accreditation.
Emily, is the documentary showing anywhere in Texas?
Oh, that's so nice. It is not in Texas yet. It's actually having a week run in Los Angeles. this coming week, and then they're working on an impact campaign. This is just a documentary that followed us trying to advocate in getting this district public school that was sort of designed for kids with language-based learning disabilities and other struggling readers. And it's turning out to, like, people are really heartened by it, and it tells a pretty interesting story of, just how hard it is to make change. It's,
what's the
tough stuff.
title?
It's called Left Behind. And I think if you Google Left Behind the movie, .com, and yeah, it's like a little boy with an open book on the cover. And once they do an impact campaign, it'll be more like Right to Read, where they take it around the country and sort of do screenings of it. I would say that, like, it will be a really good tool for explaining why this is so necessary. And I think it will move a lot of hearts and minds.
Because in another kind of impact is South by Southwest EDU. That would be a great place to show it. We tried to do it
for sure
this year, but it was already too late. So that's something I'd like to do for South by Southwest EDU.
Yeah.
Mary, I wanted to ask you if any state has adopted the K-Peri exam as their literacy exam for certification.
Yes. Rhode Island has it as an option, along with the Pearson. So I know there are 3 states. I'm just trying to remember. Rhode Island is one of them.
Okay.
And the other, so we are working towards, we're going to be doing a practice test. We're validity and reliability study with new test questions. So that's what we're working on this year. So we've already started meeting with Measure, who is who we use to administer the exam. So they're going to start helping us to develop new test questions and doing things like that. And then I'm also working on, so we have the knowledge and practice standards, but as I've also have created a self-study document that took Mount St. Joseph's, Rhode Island, the CEDAR, the configuration, innovative configuration, and looked at and compared and aligned them to the knowledge and practice standards. And this tool is to help universities kind of looking at their coursework, so that, because the standards are very broad. It's not very detailed, just like our Common Core standards or our state standards. The purpose is not to get down into the weeds. So, for example, it really doesn't talk about what are the theoretical models that you ground your coursework in, right? And so that's one of the competencies or components that you need to be thinking about. Out of the courses that you're aligning to the knowledge and practice standards, who are you looking for? Your expert practitioners, your researchers, and so are you looking at simple view of reading? Are you looking at Scarborough's rope? Are you looking at Airy's phases? Are you doing a combination? What are you using? And then the courses should expand off of that, depending on which area. So how the brain learns to read, the instruction, what you teach, the instruction, how you teach, and definitely a comprehensive assessment system and MTSS data analysis. So those are the 4 main buckets that, and then the 5 standards are divided into those 4 buckets.
Great. That's exciting. I'd like to see that move across the country. I'm glad to know you're doing those reliability and validity studies.
Yeah. So we keep working on that. So
good work. Thank you.
Yeah, I would love to learn a little bit more about that. We just are redoing the exam as well in New York State.
Oh, which exam that the teachers are going to be, right. So
yeah, they've committed to looking at it, and I actually, based on what Kelly said, sort of recommended that they not just look at the Pearson, because they said, well, there's really only one. That was sort of the go-to. And so I sort of recommended, and they said, okay, great, we'll look at everything and anything. So I would love to sort of touch base with you on some of that work so that we can sort of.
Right. We know a lot of you guys are helping to push the fact that the K-Period exam and how it, because it is aligned to the knowledge and practice standards, and that it just raises the bar for these teachers as the outcome measure of their knowledge.
But I'm just curious, like, how are you squaring that with the push to fast track teachers because there's this teacher shortage? Because that's what we're sort of running up against.
Yeah, that is. So I think this goes to, well, there's like several prong approach. You have the institutions that are preparing teachers, whether or not it's traditional. So we're seeing a lot of online coursework. So it's really looking how deep these online courses, if they are shortened and not the traditional semesters, we need to have something that is the outcome measure to determine whether or not the teachers actually learned what they were supposed to before they get in front of kids, right? Or are we working with state boards, with state departments to say, if you provide this as a licensure, what do you do at the district level or the school to provide support for these teachers, because they really haven't done the traditional way? So, I mean, I would love to see a coach in every building, and this coach is working with new teachers. My sixth grade daughter, who's dyslexic, has a first year teacher in sixth grade, and I just went to their parent teacher conferences, and I was just looking at him going, oh, you poor child. He's just trying everything he knows. And I gave him grace because this is his first year, and I didn't tell him who I was, and I just kind of gave him a nugget. Let's talk about vocabulary. Can you increase vocabulary? That's something I think he could do. Wasn't about to go into anything detail. So did I answer your question? I know it is hard.
So I guess so Stephanie or Kelly or Mary, from the university side of things, like, like I said, we want to do this yesterday, but I know that that's not going to happen. So like, if you are going to give us, like, here are the first 3 high leverage steps you can take that are going to help move you in the right direction, like, what would you say that those are?
So I think Mount St. Joseph, Stephanie has, Mount St. Joseph has a tool that is great for the department to look at their courses and make sure that it's aligned to knowledge and practice standards. We also have a tool very similar, so we could share either one, and it's getting the courses and just doing an initial look. How well are you aligning to the standards? Number one. The second thing would be the textbooks. The textbooks that are being used, make sure that you vetted it through NCTQ to make sure that is aligned to the knowledge and practice or the science of reading. Number 3, start looking at your faculty. Who are going to be your instructors, and doing an initial look to see. Eventually, I would like Siri to have a faculty credential of highly qualified instructor. So we have minimum requirements of who are the instructors who are teaching this, because right now we don't have anything to really say that this person is highly qualified to be teaching teachers, other than they have their degree. They might have a master's or a doctorate. We don't know what their background is. So, but look, just kind of look and see what's the background of your faculty, and do you think that they have the knowledge and skills? Anything you want to add?
I would say go to one of your seminars. Go to one of Mary's accreditation seminars. The one that you hosted right before the IDA conference last year was a showcase of people who have gone through that process, and really informative and educational. And a great opportunity to network. I think there's nothing like talking to people who've just gone through the process so that you can, you know, glean the nuggets of information and strategy from them. And I don't know, Mary, if you also offer things like that online or yeah.
Well, so we are. So I'm putting together quarterly accreditation workshops. That'll be about an hour and a half to 2 hours talking about the process briefly, but really talking about what should you be looking for to make sure that you are aligned and that you're ready to go into the accreditation process. Because the process takes about 6 months. So we have 5 parts to our application. Each part, we have a 1 hour to an hour and a half Zoom call where we show exemplar models on how to respond to answer our questions. How do you fill out our appendices? What are we looking for? What do the examiners look for when they review? So we give you examples of what the depth and breadth of the answers or documentation you need. So every part is a month, and then we have 3 discussion groups where you can bring your questions. If you want more examples, we'll dig into our files and provide a specific example of what you're looking for. And then once the pipeline sessions are done, you have another 4 to 6 weeks to turn everything in. And then along the way, the examiners are looking at things that you upload and then ask questions, give you feedback. Once you go through, if you get accredited, fine. If you don't, you have another 6 to 9 months to fix things and to upload all your updated documents. And then it goes to a review team who takes all the evidence from the previous review and then updates it with the updated materials.
What has been your success rate so far of schools that have applied for accreditation and schools that have?
So we have 20 universities and 30 independents, and we've had 3 programs not pass.
I like those numbers.
Okay. So I'm telling you, we don't want you not to pass. We want you to pass. So we really work hard to provide you feedback, examples, meet with you and say, hey, can you come up with a document and explain this? Do you have something that will explain that? So we really work with you to say, what could you do to beef it up and to do the recommendations?
I have a suggestion for Mary and maybe Stephanie, and maybe y'all are already doing this, but I'm wondering, I keep thinking that selection of textbook is kind of low-hanging fruit. If programs if they just selected a stronger textbook, they might be well on their way to movement. But I also know that for the very folks who are trying to change, they may not cotton to the National Council for Teacher Quality's list, even though it's a reliable list. Stephanie has put together a list, and which I think is very reliable. And I'm wondering if IDA has done their own list, but even if you just took the NCTQ list and posted it on your website and said, these are recommended textbooks, if that would help. I think that just seems like a simple but powerful move.
So yes, I think Stephanie has hers, and her examples of syllabi have lists of readings that go with every course, correct? And every course syllabi has recommended text, suggested text, and alternative text. You have all 3, right? Is that how you call it? Yeah.
And that's on Mount St. Joe, Stephanie, not Reading Science Academy.
Yeah, it's on the Center for Reading Science at Mount St. Joe, and it's actually the same website that I linked in the chat a minute ago, where the syllabus review tool is. The textbook spreadsheet is there as well.
Right, and so then their work that they've been doing, and then we've been keeping a list of readings that a lot of programs have, and we just keep updating ours. So during our pipeline cohort sessions, we provide that list for them. But that's a good idea, is to have it up on our website also.
I found it. I'm in your spreadsheet now.
It's a couple years old at this point. It could be updated. There's some new texts that are really helpful that we should add to that list. So I have to add that to my to-do list of finding somebody to help with that.
Yeah, one of your grad students. And see if they do.
So is our next step going to be finding speakers now for our accreditation? Hope.
Right. So I got your email, and yes, I have it on my calendar. I'm able to come out. And so right now it's just figuring out how you who are you going to invite? And so that kind of gives you an idea of who you want your speakers to be. Do you want Hope, what would you think institutions would want? Already current IDA accredited partner to come and present about the process and how it was.
And not just the process, but like what the aftermath has been. Like, what are, like, what have they seen as a result of the implementation or of their accredited program, and not just at their university, but like, what are they seeing in their community?
So Lisa, then it'd be logistics of the travel. So who would pay for this person to come and present? So you'd have to figure out funding for them. Because I could give you some, I'm just looking on our website, the states, like Amy Thompson, she would be good. She's right next to you guys or near you. And I'm trying to think of my list.
What about Stephanie Stoller? Would she be good?
Yes.
Actually, Jamie
Anyway,
Peevler is
what?
Jamie Peevler is leading up we're up for renewing
Reaccreditation.
reaccreditation right now, and she's spearheading that. So she would be the best person from Mount St. Joe.
Okay.
Or one of our doc students who's recently gone through it at City University in Seattle, Bethany Moffett. I don't know, Mary, if you would recommend her, but
Yes, I saw her presentation. She's great. She's helping us with another project, but yeah, if she's available, that's who another person I was thinking. No one in Oklahoma.
Bethany
Oh,
Moffett.
University of Georgia. That would be, I'm just trying to think of who's near you guys. University of Southern Mississippi, Central Arkansas.
Is that Jackson University?
Where are they located? Are you talking about University of Southern Mississippi?
Yes. That's not
Let me see where they're located.
It's in Hattiesburg.
Okay. Mhm. They just went through.
That is really encouraging. Boy, they were the bastion of whole language for so long.
Yes. Yes.
Who's your point person there? Do you know?
Let me look it up real quick, and I can tell you. Southern Mississippi. Oh, how come I don't see?
while you're looking, I'll just mention that you really do want to assign a point person to lead this up. You need somebody to coordinate the effort. It's a lot of document collection. It's a lot of timeline management. It's project management. And so you want to stipend somebody to spearhead it or provide release time. You want to have, one lead person who can corral everybody through the process. Because when you finally are in the queue, your number is up to go through the process. You want to be ready to have everything buttoned up, and it's just best to have one person leading it.
Yeah, the boards are going to be supporting her. Each branch is supporting. So Austin's involved in supporting it, and Houston and Dallas. So we're going to be behind getting the conference going. So that's good. We have the
Yeah.
venue. We're definitely gonna offer that, definitely support all that. You said Bethany Moffat, and what was the other name that Stephanie that you'd given that you
Jamie, Jamey Peavler, Peavler at Mount St. Joe.
okay.
For University of Southern Mississippi, this was in 22. It was Missy Schrader, and she's with the DeBard School.
Oh, that's the speech and language school.
Yeah. So I'm not sure of that, but
That explains everything.
yeah, it's not through general ed. Yes. So again,
Another examples of silos sitting side by side doing totally opposite things.
right, and that's like NAU, it's all through speech and language. So I started a committee with ASU, U of A, and NAU all through the speech and language departments. They are starting to review their courses with each other to talk about their text, the content. So I'm kind of doing this pre-work because I don't have anything pushing yet here in Arizona, but I know the state board director and I know the Department of Education because I used to work there. So I've got an in with conversation, but I haven't gotten past that yet to the universities.
That's actually a really good point. I mean, because just to what Kelly just said about the silos, like we have an amazing ComD program, communication disorders program at the University of Houston, and some of their folks will be special education minors, and take my class, hold my classes, but we don't see a lot of crossover. But they're doing so much of, there's such crossover of the work that we're actually doing with students. So even just targeting not just like you said, educator, colleges of education, but communication disorders departments
or early childhood. So think about because at ASU it's all early childhood speech and language. At NAU it's special ed, dyslexia, and speech. And at U of A, it's not general ed. That's all special ed. That's all that is. So, we're working in different places at each of the universities, but I've started them just to do this crosswalk and thinking about cross collaboration. That's what they are focusing on.
Yeah, and we have a letter that's going out. So we're going to be vetting Texas universities and all over, actually. So that letter will go to, okay.
So, Lisa, I would say thinking about who you want as speakers, then we can brainstorm what you want them to present, or they could share what they see as their strengths that they could talk about. And then we can see, is there crosswalk between their conversation or what they would speak about? What do you want them, And then that kind of leaves what you want me to be trying to present and talk about to try and tie it together for the accreditation process.
Okay. And this is June 26th, right?
I had 2 days. So which one is it? In the initial email, you told me 25th or 26th. So
I'm still waiting for confirmation. We are having to work around College of Education orientation. So they're trying to get they're being pressed to get those dates done. So hopefully by Friday, if not, I will go haunt Tim, our organizer.
yeah, I have 25th on my calendar right now. And then, what was I thinking? Right, in Indiana, last year I did the initial, and they have already called me back for next year to do a phase 2 next, so the first one is just to get the general information. Now they've got a couple of schools that are really ready to move forward. So now I'm coming back and I'm really digging deeper into it to get them ready before they go to the pipeline.
I guess my last question is, do you see any room for a speaker, like from the legislative point of view coming in, if we to offer anything to the symposium? Because we have some people that we were thinking of inviting to speak. That's
Well, and it'd be whether or not you want any of these stakeholders like the school board, State Department, the superintendent, philanthropy group, the governor's office. Who have you started talking to that has the drive and an initiative that wants to present and talk about the importance and can tie. So who do you see as a good speaker for you?
Well, Jennifer Highland and I, as a state representative, that he wanted to speak. The lawyer.
It was Stephen Alamon from Disability Rights Texas. And he works with a lot of groups, not just dyslexia, but he did work with our dyslexia group on our legislation 2 years ago, and he's active in the legislation this year to fully fund special education, remove the disability penalty. So he could potentially be a good resource. But we, our little breakout group, talked about that and what kind of speaker we should be looking for. Dahlem, I don't know if you want to talk about what we came up with, although I'm not sure we came up with an answer.
Yeah. So the question would be, what would be the objective of this during that June timeframe? So number one, between now and June is the legislative session. So I think there's going to be a lot of busy people there. And secondly, what would be the objective that we would have someone come speak? Is it just informative? And if it's just with universities, if the target audience is universities, what would we want to?
That's a good point.
To achieve.
I have a thought, but I don't know if that hits on it. So we have Laura Spites here.
Mm-hmm.
What is the effect from NIHouse? What is the effect if an individual doesn't get literacy? I mean, that's truly the end result, right? In adulthood.
Yeah, I mean, we have the adult literacy program, so we have testimonials from adults. There's also in Houston the mayor's office for adult literacy that could provide, because they have a whole blueprint written out about the status of adult literacy in Houston, and so that's an option too.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate, and I'm gonna say, if you're talking to folks from universities that are in colleges of education, or like I know personally, like I use like the NAEP scores are what I use as a foundation for everything I write. Like, so if you're gonna talk to me about like that only 30% of students, in 4th and 8th grade are reading on grade level. If you're, if we're going to talk about like I ground, my research in the adult literacy stuff. I think for universities, we need to know, why is this important for us as universities to make this shift? How is this going to benefit the students that are graduating from our programs? And then kind of like think of it as concentric circles. And then how does this impact the community at large, right? So university, graduates, and then community at large.
Could we almost, as you just said it, like it's the ripple effect, right? That we're starting in the very nucleus, which is educating the teachers. And if we start with that nucleus and we start there, then the ripple effect isn't so harsh, right? And so we have to talk about the different stages. Would that be important? I don't know. I think you presented it great.
Funny, because with Indiana, they said the same thing and we created a graphic. So let me show you the graphic. And talking it just like that, it's all about the student, but it's the students in the center, then and then the universities or teachers are on the outside with school districts, and the universities are within, because it's about the students and then the preparation for teachers and then the schools that they are assigned to, and then the districts and the community outside, right? So as you start going out. A person came to mind was Elsa Cardenas Hagen down in Brownsville and her work, because she just talked about the effects of doing structured literacy in a small community and how the effects have been. And but she does more of the independent program, although I think she's at a university, but most of her training is through an independent program.
Yeah, we just held a webinar with her yesterday. Austin did, and yeah, she kind of upset because they two of her research programs have been shut down in the State Department.
Yeah.
She was just a little bit bummed about that.
And then I don't know about Sharon Vaughn.
Yeah.
Do you want to try and get Antonio Fierro? He's local.
Yes, I think we need to call on our Texas people.
Right, so I'm just trying to think of people that I know. So Sharon Vaughn, Antonio, Elsa,
Terry Nolan.
Terry Nolan,
And
Joshi.
we also have David Francis at the University of Houston, and he is actually the partner of Christy Santee, who is working with me on this project and helping create the courses. So I don't think that getting him to help would be a stretch, to speak.
So the whole question is, do they want to hear, are they okay hearing someone within Texas, or do they need to hear from outside?
Well, I think he does, he's doing research with kids in schools. He's sending folks out into schools to do interventions with kids. And I think, like, it'd be really nice to hear somebody say, like, wouldn't it be great if this research didn't have to happen, because what we were doing was preparing our teachers in the first place, who were ready to go out and provide this type of instruction to. And I think that's what I want to hear is like, okay, so I am a clinical professor, so I have a 4-4 load in a college of education. Like, it is imperative to me to make sure that I am teaching this so that they're not getting to that, right? So I think helping us connect the dots is important. So I don't think it's that they don't want to hear from it. Sometimes educator prep sits in a silo, just like Kelly was talking about with ComD, like even from research, right? Because a lot of us are clinicals doing the educator prep, and the researchers are at the doctoral level, teaching the doc classes. So I think even making that connection would be important for our universities to, not that we're going to put the Meadows Center out of, out of business, or CLI or anything,
Right. I was thinking of David Kearns. He's more of a practitioner in the field with the research also. So
Devin?
Devin. Yeah, Devin.
Yeah, I've actually reached out to him in the past to talk about, because he started the Connecticut Center for Intensive Intervention. Then I want to do something like that at U of H. So he and I are already kind of touching base. I'm happy to reach out and talk to him about coming down. He's dynamic. I like him.
Right. So he's more of a practitioner and researcher, and he can talk about the importance of a student because he was a teacher. So I think that's who you want as your speaker, someone who, and so it can be who you were talking about, or anyone that that actually works with kids.
Yeah, and Devin's now in North Carolina, so he's a little closer than UConn.
I think November, wasn't it? October or November of last year, he moved. Yeah.
Well, we got some good leads. We did. Okay, well, it's 7:25, and Dahlem, did you want to?
Yeah, so we're just going to try to give a kind of brief outbrief of what we discussed. Why don't I pulled ours together? I'm just going to share it real quick of what we pulled together, if I can get to it. Okay. So, can you see it?
Yes.
All right. So near term, obviously, we need to identify key stakeholders and influencers. We have a few. Yeah, obviously, Toth Homes. We need additional ones. So between now and June, we were looking to identify additional stakeholders that we will need to get with. So so the whole team is going to be working on that. We also need to assess the current legislation gaps. We already know that enforcement and compliance is one. And so we're going to, Jennifer is going to get with some of her contacts to see if we can identify more that we might need to address going forward. And then obviously we need to address the research, pilots, testimonies, all the data, facts and data we will need to support any legislation that we're looking at. I'm going to contact Dr. Joshi and see what he thinks, and then go from there. And we'll talk about other things. Testimony. So if any of the independent programs, so someone mentioned that they had testimony about people from adults, that might be beneficial. So we might want to get that as well. Those are the near terms between now and June, since most of the any legislation activity, the legislation activity goes through June. After June, we're going to need to start engaging in completing the research, and by the time we get to March of 2026, we need to start drafting and reviewing legislation with legislators, aides, etc., doing what we were told, walking the streets, knocking on doors with legislature representatives, with the whole objective of completing a draft legislation by October 2026 to support the January 27 legislation session.
I can't believe you already pulled that together. What?
What?
That's impressive that you already put that together. I love it. Yep, that was our discussion.
Questions? Okay. Good. Did y'all put together a presentation? I'll stop sharing.
Absolutely not.
I know.
But I will show you my chicken scratch notes all over my
I can't read that.
I know. I should have been putting a PowerPoint together while we were doing this. But I think we talked about a lot of good stuff. Our conversation was really two-pronged. We talked about very specifically the pilot program at the University of Houston and what is necessary to help get that really off the ground. And then switching over to the symposium and what are some of the nuts and bolts that we need to be thinking about, and who are some people that we can tap to bring into that. And really getting clear on what the purpose is on this symposium, so that we are making sure to drive home that messaging that when we reach out to universities to join our symposium.
So we had a couple of things that we wanted to inject in your action list.
No.
Yeah, we get to do that. So we do want, from a legislation perspective, we do think that we need to target some universities to move forward. A&M being one of them, because not only are they large, but they have a lot of political influence. Texas and maybe Texas Tech.
Excellent. Well, we'll have to stop the meeting now, but can everyone, is that okay if we invite you to the next meeting? We always record them just to, we would love to have you join, or when you can. And
I don't think I have much of a role here beyond tonight, though I'm happy to have been consulted and appreciate your interest in what we did. Stephanie had to jump off, I think, but she probably has a lot more to offer. But loop back if you need me for some particular thing, but I think you're well on your way, and I wish you well.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate all your.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
So then, are we going to adjourn the meeting? And we will be in touch. We'll still meet again. And Kelly will still keep you on the list. You don't have to show up, but we we do we just don't want to lose you. Okay.
Hey, can I ask for Sarah, Lisa, and Dahlem? I have Laura on the call, and she was going to help or give some information. Can we end that with Jennifer Highland to help expedite that letter?
Yes.
Can we do that and just talk with her really quick?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll stay on longer if anyone wants to stay on.
Yeah, anyone, because we want to kind of move forward with the letter, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're next steps of.
Yes, anyone who wants to stay on. Have we thought about what the voice would be? And then I know because I think Laura comes with the background. Just the knowledge of what happens when the literacy, the lack of literacy in adulthood, and what happens. So she was going to come on because they've done research and has some profounding information that could be included in the letter. So Laura, what do you think? Like, what could you?
So hi, I'm Laura. I'm a dyslexia therapist at the HUADA, and I work at Night House Education Center, so I'm over our adult literacy program there. I'm also, somebody mentioned Dr. Joshi. I'm also getting my PhD under Dr. Joshi right now at Texas A&M, and also went there for undergrad too. So lots of A&M connections, if that's helpful. But Jennifer and I had spoken about the adult literacy program in particular, because that's part of what I'm using for my dissertation, is just showing the growth that the students have, but also, right, what the data is showing us is that as probably expected, right, it's not as much as you would have if you were a first grader getting this intervention with a more plastic brain. So just the importance of both how this makes an argument for the importance of early intervention, but also the fact that it's not just about literacy, it's about how you view yourself as a human. We're collecting data also on self-efficacy of the adults that are in our program, and how that changes as they get into a space where they have other people who are like them and they don't feel alone, and also where they start to feel success. So that's just to throw out a brief. I know, Jennifer, you and I spoke really briefly, and I'm kind of jumping in the middle of everything that you guys have been working on. So I put that out there, and if it's useful, great. And if it's not, then I'm just happy to be a fly on a wall and help where I can.
Well, you're very knowledgeable, so that will be very helpful. So
I did draft a letter. I sent it to Hope and Lisa, I think yesterday. I would like to put some good statistics in there from Texas for reading. I don't know if we just want to use the typical 4th and 8th grade where they are, or if there are any adult statistics at Laura that you could provide for us.
Yeah, I mean, not my research, but just the general about how, so Houston, 1 in 3 adults lack functional literacy, and I could expand it out to Texas because we're below what the United States average is. So yeah, I could send that to you for sure.
Okay, that would be great. And we're meeting tomorrow, aren't we? Again?
no, Friday.
I mean, Friday. I'm lost in time here.
I get off work. I gotta
get a crazy week, and it's 8:35 here. No, but we are meeting regarding the symposium on Friday, right? That is, so maybe we can solidify the letter and approve it then. Does that sound good?
Is that 3:15 Friday?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. That's what I have on my calendar, but I mean, who knows? Okay.
Claire, are you able to come to that meeting? Are you able to attend, or?
Yeah, I can come. I'm planning to.
Does Lara want to come?
Laura, sorry, that's why I got confused. Laura. Yeah, no, I can come. I just need the invite. I just don't have it.
Okay, I'll send it to you. All right.
Will you send it to me too?
Okay.
Oh no, I have it.
I think it says 3:05.
Yeah, 305 is fine. 305. 'Cause I'm actually doing that night house. I went ahead and got into that adult literacy. So I've been teaching BLS and MRS.
Send it to everybody
Oh,
I
again.
signed up
So
for that. I'm like their pilot. Well, I paid for it, but anyway. Yeah, it's very nice. It's great. It's really nice. It's
very cool.
anyway, I'm waiting for part two. It's 2-day
yeah,
trip.
just resend it to everybody again, so
Oh,
that way
you
it's
took the
all fresh in our
SRS training.
inbox.
Yes, yeah. I go.
Oh, we should talk. I would love to hear your thoughts on that because, yeah, that's what all of our adult literacy classes are either transitioning to or using. Yeah.
I like it so far. I mean, I've been able to just use it, pick it up start using it, incorporate.
Yeah.
But
that's awesome.
Love to talk to you about that. And it should be recognized by IGA. That's my only other thing that I'm with the Texas. Are we recognizing the IGA certification in Texas anytime? Like when we have these programs that are going to be accredited,
Oh, like as a licensed dyslexia therapist?
or
Like that?
is it a CALP that they are going to recognize people as, or is that after? Like BA is a CALP certificate. Yeah. I was just wondering if Night House is, because are they thinking of trying to get these programs accredited with IDA? The structured model.
Well, we have the concepts and literacy is accredited with IDA. The SRS, I don't know what since that's not I'm very squarely in the community programs, but I can certainly ask.
Okay. All right. Well, I will send out I will send that out. Google, get you on that email meeting for Friday. And I guess, is there anything else we need to discuss, or that's great? It was great.
Yeah, I think it went well.
Yes.
There's a lot of good information.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of work ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea.
But it's slowly making the connections. It used to be such a small group. And the other thing with that letter, Dan Patrick, I have that connection. That letter is going to be given hand delivered to the friend of Dan Patrick. He is expecting it.
Okay.
So it's through my peeps that I know, but yes. So
That's terrific because he's a hard audience to get. So any way we can get in there.
There's dyslexia that affects the family.
Oh, I know. His daughter lives in my neighborhood and his grandchildren are dyslexic. Yep.
Maybe the same. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's why that letter is important. So bye, Dave.
And that would be a fantastic ally, a powerful ally.
Yes. The one thing it was stated is we are not to email the letter, that the letters to be hand delivered to him, because if it goes by email, and these are through friends of friends, so it's not like, here you go. It's like, this is what we're doing, and she's on board. So who's giving the letter? So, okay, perfect. Okay, then I will see you guys at 3:15 or 3:05.
And I think we're supposed to bring wine this time.
Just log in at 3.
Hope and I are having dinner.
You can have wine. You can do whatever you want. But I actually am going to have a student at 4:30, so I had to switch a student to 4:30 on Friday.
Okay. So we're time limited.
Normal thing, but I just did that.
Okay.
It'll be a dry session. So.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay, fine.
You guys can drink. That's cool. All right.
Well, Hope and I are going out to dinner. So that's what we're doing after.
Oh, great.
Laura, we should include you the next time.
Fun.
I appreciate the invite, but with my 2 littles,
I know.
not in a stage where I can go have fun after work right now.
One day.
You're awesome to come to our meetings, then. We appreciate you being on Collective Impact.
Thank you. All right. So I'll see you guys on Friday.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
You too, Sarah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.